So here we are in the man cave, and I ask this first question almost with a little trepidation. Tell me about the moment, the first time you felt like a good dad. Who'd like to jump in? Go for it.
I'd say for me it was the time I changed the first diaper. I mean,
Attaboy.
What an experience. My father never changed a diaper in his life. And I remember Mom telling stories. We'd sit in it till he got home, and I'm thinking, that's just nasty. No, in all seriousness, I think that as a father, there's times throughout raising your children where you feel like you're a good dad. But there's a lot of times, too, where you feel you're not such a good dad in those times of failure or when your child makes a bad decision. So there's been many, many times I felt like I've been a good dad, but just as many times where I feel I failed. And, I try and take those opportunities to teach my kids that, when you have kids, these are the things that you need to look out for and do your best to make sure they don't go down that path.
Bill, I'm going to guess that you have had dozens and dozens of opportunities to be a good dad over this last 7 years or so.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really think I was a better dad before they learned how to talk. So they tell me all the time that, what I'm doing wrong now. But no, it was actually, there is a moment that I can think of. And again, like Rich said, there's a lot of moments. They're all a blessing. But Will, so he was our first child. He was about 1. And he was sick. And he was having a really hard time breathing. So anytime we laid him down, he would be down for 15 minutes and he'd wake up crying and wheezing. So I sat up with him and I was holding him in a rocking chair, just rocking him back and forth. And I realized that as I held him, he would not cough anymore and he would sleep. So I spent that entire night in a rocking chair, rocking him back and forth, just so he could sleep, knowing that I had to get up for work the next day, and I really needed some sleep. And at that moment, I just knew that there's nothing I wouldn't do for that little child. And that's just, that's continued through the rest of them as well.
Oh, man, love that. Brian?
I think for me, I've never really thought, with anything, I never think I'm, good. That's how my mind is. And that always pushes me to be better. But I think there was a moment where my daughter explained the scriptures to my mother and explained them in detail. And the detail that she explained it was so amazing that I was like, wow, she really is listening. I guess I did something right. So I think that was a big moment for me when I realized that all the things I had been saying over the years, she memorized all of them and could actually explain them and understood them.
Wow, that's awesome.
Tim, I asked this question to you too, knowing that you're kind of in an area where a lot of us maybe are headed someday with the number of grandchildren and children. We're talking about multiple generations to not only be a good dad, but a good grandfather.
I think anybody that struggles with feeling like they're a good person will struggle with saying they're a good dad. It just goes hand in hand. Most of us struggle feeling like we're not as good as we should be. And somewhere along the line, somebody once said to me, you don't have to be a perfect dad, you just have to be a good enough dad. I don't know what that means, but it keeps you in the game. And another thing, I think, I was talking to one of my daughters yesterday and saying, I think I finally felt like I was a good dad when I could look and see that my adult children have husbands who all love Jesus and we all attend church together. Now I can finally. And she said, it took you 41 years to feel like you're a good dad. What's wrong with you? At any rate, seeing all that, and I've worked with marriages and families a good deal of life, and I intentionally studied that area so I could try to be a better dad, because I didn't come to the task with a lot of tools in my toolbox. Had more pain than I had good experience there. So I set out to try to be a really good dad. Actually, I tried to be a perfect dad. There aren't any. So there's a lot of feeling like I've failed and everything, and somewhere along the journey, I realized some people take too much credit for what their kids do wrong, and then they take too much credit for what their kids do right. Adam and Eve had perfect parents, and they still went nuts. So I get a little bit of break in there. You try and stay in the game and love them. Keep saying over and over again, love them when they do it right, love them when they do it wrong. And at the end, my life's amazing right now with my